Hi, everyone, and happy holidays from OC Publishing, and welcome to today's author journey, our very special holiday celebration. Today, I have a whole bunch of my authors with me, and we're going to share some holiday cheer. We're going to do some readings, and we're going to do some giveaways. So I don't want to waste too much time because we're a little bit late starting, but I'm going to bring everybody up to join me to say hello and happy holidays. And here we are. Yay! Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Thank you so much for joining me. Looks like we might have lost Monty right now, but I'll watch for her to come back. Has everybody finished your holiday shopping?
No.
We still have about a week and a half. So we're not under the wire just yet, but I have to tell you,
unless you're shopping online, in which case, at least for my company, tomorrow is the last day to get free ground shipping in time for Christmas. So
very good.
And
point.
if you're celebrating Hanukkah, you're super close. You're cutting it close.
That's right.
That's very, very true. And I've done some of my shopping on Amazon, and if you're a Prime member, you're probably still okay to order more books on Amazon.
That's right.
But if you're not a Prime member, it might be a good opportunity to start a Prime membership. And I'm not paid by Amazon to say that, but it is one of the easiest ways to get books. But the other way is to jump on over to your local indie bookstore. And we always have lots of titles coming out and just so much excitement. And this year it was just like a fire hose of excitement, and we had 7 titles that came out this year. And the most recent, we haven't Lisa isn't with us yet, but I have to give a little shout out to Orange Kitty and the Mouse Parade, which was our most recent title that came out on December 1st. And if you're here in Halifax, where some of us are located, Orange Kitty is at Woozles, which is the oldest bookstore here in the Atlantic provinces. So that's very exciting. So that's sort of a new partnership for us with Woozles. So very, very excited. So I really want to give everybody a chance to say hi and happy holidays. So we're going to jump right in, and I'm going to highlight you one at a time to say hi to all of our viewers. And I'll watch as the comments come in. If anybody is watching us live, make sure that if you have any questions, that you fire them into the comments. And as we go through our little special here, each author is going to ask a question after they do their reading, and some will be giving away copies. If anybody has a favorite OC Publishing title, whether we talk about it today or not, if you write it in the comments, anybody who writes an OC Publishing title in the comments today will get a free PDF of that title. So make sure that you have a look at our website, ocpublishing.ca, and have some fun with that. So hang on just a sec, and we're going to highlight Rachel first. Hey, Rachel.
Hey, how are you? Thanks for gathering us all together.
Oh, unbelievable. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah. So I guess this is where I give a little intro and get cozy by the Christmas tree. So I'm not going to be reading 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. I'm going to be reading an excerpt from my book, which is called I Am Not. It's a memoir. But first I'll say, so I live in Alexandria. Well, I just moved. So where do I live? I live in the other A town. I live in Annandale, in Northern Virginia, just outside of Washington, D.C. But I was raised in Austin. So apparently I have a thing for towns that start with A. And, but I lived quite a bit of time in Southern California, which is where part of the book takes place, and where I am leaving in the section that I chose to read. So, and normally I read the bra story for laughs, but I thought, this one, people are making changes this time of year, gearing up for changes. So I thought this would be fitting for that. So this is towards the last section of the book called, it's chapter 2, and it's called Open Road. And I won't read the whole thing, I'll just read a little bit of it. Breathe. A deep, freeing inhale and exhale. The trunk slams shut. I take one last look, then bounce into the front seat of my blue-purple Mazda 3 like a kid on a carnival ride. I'm free. Reverse, shift, forward. November 1st, 2006 is the first day of the rest of my life. I see Hollywood in my rear view. I rather poetically drive past the turnoff to my first apartment, drive past Pasadena where my first post-college job was. I see my LA fade behind me as open sky unfolds before me. The red, pink, tan desert replaces the gray trafficked cement. I'm alone. I'm free. I'm headed east on the 10 for a fresh start. The 10. That's something my dad never got over. The Californian way of putting the before their freeways. V5, V10, V405. They don't do that where I'm from. We don't add articles unnecessarily. We just make contractions out of everything. What we can't contract, we fry or barbecue. Excuse me, BBQ. Sidebar, if you didn't hear me, I'm from Texas. So the plan is Phoenix, then White Sands, then who the hell knows, but eventually end up in Austin. Yes, I say hell now. And shit and damn. Sorry, Mom, you're on this call. But not the F word. I'm not that rebellious yet. I think about saying it though. Home. Part of me worries others will call this a retreat. Part of me fears I'll be labeled the one who couldn't make it. Fears I'll be branded a failure and forever hear whispered behind me, isn't it so sad she had to come back home to her parents' house, tail tucked? But I'm beginning not to care. It's a very strange feeling. I've never not cared about others' opinions before. The clarity of the open road is freeing, driving in darkness so black you can see nothing and everything simultaneously. Stars filling the sky like nothing I've seen in far too long. I'm not really sure why I'm leaving LA. I know what I keep telling people, but it doesn't feel genuine. I say, oh, the Austin indie film market is picking up, but I'd like to try getting started there. Or some other bullshit about it being a solid career move. Part of me does want to try that just to be 100% certain that I don't want this in any way, regardless of locale. To perhaps prove to myself that at one point, I was genuinely in it for the art and not the idea of making it. It's been too long since I acted or sang for pleasure of it, for the artistry of it. It's been too long since I've been judged by talent and not appearance. It's been too long since I've watched anyone else perform and not judged their appearance myself. Or participated in commenting about how so many actresses start cute, make it, and then become gorgeous. Their hair shinier, their waist smaller, their boobs sometimes bigger, their clothes and jewels more polished. Is that what I've really been chasing this whole time? A seemingly surefire way to finally have the money and connections and mandate to fit the mold. When did I become that person? I did not want to be that person. I do not want to be that person. If I stayed in LA, I'm sure that I would become, because I would be too surrounded to resist. I'm scared to let go of the identity I've had for so long that I remember nothing else. And yet something animalistic is aching to bust out of me, to bust me free. I could feel it long before I started my drive, long before I knew I'd be driving. But why it's there or what is bursting from me, I do not yet know. It's somewhere in the Arizona desert. It was something Taylor said to me. She was kind enough to meet with me. Our fathers connected the way we all are to Kevin Bacon. An hour in her Santa Monica office left me with much to ponder. From the pondering, I was able to give myself permission to admit I had changed my mind and realized that changing my mind isn't quitting or failing, it's growth. I'm allowed to grow, to choose, to change, to shift gears, to start over, to reverse and go forward. It doesn't mean I'm incapable. It doesn't mean I'm not good enough. It doesn't mean I'm broken. It was a decision my heart and gut had made years ago, my head too thick to hear. I have no idea what I'm going to do when I get home. I have no idea what I'm good at. I have no idea what my parents might charge me for rent. But I know deep in my gut that if I stayed, it would keep chewing me up until I die. It would chew me up and spit me out. I don't know why this voice inside me tells me this, but it does. It whispers to me like desert wind, you're choosing life, and so I drive. So this is the cover, and yes, you can get it on Amazon as well as other booksellers. Links are in my website and also on OC Publishing. And I am to ask a skill-related question or a were you listening question to enter in to get a signed copy of my book. So that question is, what date did I leave Los Angeles? You don't even have to read the whole thing. You could have just listened to what I just read to get the answer. So what date did I leave LA? And thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you so much for being on. That was awesome. Yay! Yay! I love that. And I also just wanted to reiterate that if you're watching and you're answering the skill testing question, for our authors who are in the U.S., if you are a U.S. resident and you're answering these skill testing questions, you'll get a signed copy, and vice versa for the Canadian folks. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, we'll be drop shipping. It won't be signed because we need to be conscious of shipping costs. But again, don't forget, if you have a title that you would love to read, I will send you a PDF anytime today. If somebody puts a title of an OC Publishing book in the comments, whether you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn, and I will send you a PDF. So we continue our exciting celebration, and let's move on to our next person. Ailsa, do you want to go next?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Ailsa Keppie, and I'm here in Halifax, or not in Halifax anymore, close to Halifax. I was out of the city. And glad to be on this OC Publishing special holiday edition. I've written a memoir as well called By the Light of the Crescent Moon. And it is about my journey into and out of Islam. And I thought I would read a short part of this where I kind of created a character out of a part of myself. So I thought that might be kind of an interesting, different type of way to look at character. I have known the voice for as long as I can remember. I believe it started off as a comfort. The voice comforted me when I felt lonely or afraid or was tired of hearing my parents argue in the other room. The voice was my companion. He could play my handsome prince, my long-lost friend, my erotic lover. He could always be counted on to be there. So I'm not sure when his persona began to change. Somewhere along the line, the voice became not only protector, but persecutor. The comfort he provided became infused with thoughts like, you don't belong out there. Stay here and be safe with me. No one wants to be with you anyway. Why risk getting hurt? Other people won't live up to your expectations. I will do whatever you want. The voice shows up whenever it seems like I am enjoying things a little bit too much. The voice knows exactly how to squelch my budding enthusiasm for any new creative project. It has a nasal quality that makes it sound like it's sneering all the time, making sarcastic fun of my ideas. Sometimes it seems that it is protecting me and keeping me safe, but at other times I want to punch it for being in the way of me really being free. It's a male voice. I picture it as a tall, thin, reedy man with a sharp nose and dark eyes that look at me with disdain. The voice is mean, and I am too afraid to disregard it. I look to the voice for protection from some internal dread or fear. Like one of Bluebeard's wives, I do what I'm told to avoid punishment. And I think I'll leave it there. That's kind of it's a little bit dark, but it's definitely a good read. And I've heard that people can't really put the book down until you're finished. So it is also available on Amazon and on OC Publishing website, and I think still in some bookstores. And I'm happy to offer a signed copy to people in Canada. or a drop shipped copy. And my question is, what religion did I spend what did I write a book about? Which religion was I converting into and out of? And you can put that in the chat for however Anne's doing the special offer. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Oh, very well done. Yay. Thank you so much. It is a riveting memoir, to be sure. And Ailsa, did you have a holiday memory or tradition that you want to share?
I'd have to say, having not spent all of my life as a Christian, it's not really celebrating too much around this time of the year. It's I do have a client brought me this beautiful holiday napkin with a cookie in it, so I'm not going to say no to cookies. So there you go, holiday cookies.
Holiday cookies. We love holiday cookies. Well, thank you so much, and don't forget, everybody, to put in answers to the questions. And let's shake it up just a little bit and move to one of our children's authors. Diann, do you want to go next? Unmute yourself.
Unmuting would be good.
There you go. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Before I read the story, an answer to a holiday thing that we do at our home. When I was a young girl, Mama would always have a birthday cake for baby Jesus. And we would do that with my kids. Not every Christmas. When they got older, not even sure if they will remember it, but I started bringing it back, and I'll be teaching our grandson, and he's coming, and so he's going to help make a birthday cake for baby Jesus. So it's just a little one, and we all sing happy birthday to baby Jesus, because actually the way I grew up, it isn't the Christmas season right now. It's Advent. You're in waiting. Christmas really begins on Christmas Day, the day Jesus was born. And your Christmas tree and everything stays up till January 6th, and symbolic of the wise men coming. And that was always a tradition as well. And growing up as kids, you put your shoes out on January 6th, and then St. Nick brings you candy in your shoes. How cool is that? So so that's some of the Christmas traditions that I still like to do, and making sure we have candy canes on the tree to represent my great grandma, because I'm all about intergenerational things happening and sharing, and still putting tinsels on the tree so that it's a little bit of the Christmas tree with the spirit of great grandma, grandma, and my mama and daddy. So that's a tradition. And what's exciting about sharing that with you is that today I'm going to do just an excerpt from Charlie and the Tire Swing. And Charlie is a very intergenerational book, because in it we go all the way back to the home that was originally Charlie's great-great-grandpa. So I'm going to set the stage where Charlie's sitting in his grandpa's kitchen, and he's looking out the window, and he's sitting around the kitchen table, and he goes, "Grandpa, how did that oak tree get so big?" And that sets the stage for his grandpa to make some hot chocolate and start to share how that tree was once a little acorn, and how he had to have so much patience through all this season until it finally popped and started to grow, and eventually became the tree that it is today. So now the tree is humongous, and now I'll share just a tiny bit. That tree knew everything about me. It always had time to listen when I was happy or sad, and I always reminded the tree how it grew from an acorn. I loved that oak tree, and one day my dad bought that house from your great-great-grandpa George. And then a time came when my dad asked me if I would like to buy the house. I looked at that oak tree, and I knew I could not leave it. Pretty soon, your dad and your aunts were climbing the tree and having a great time. The tree was so happy. It just kept growing and growing, and cardinals and owls had made homes in the big oak tree. Once, even a large hawk made a home in that big oak tree. Wow, exclaimed Charlie. Come on, let's go to the garage. I want to get something for you, said Charlie's Grandpa Jack. Charlie followed his grandpa to the garage. What is it? He asked with excitement. You'll see, said Grandpa Jack as he handed Charlie a thick rope. Come on, follow me. And Grandpa Jack led the way, carrying an old tire. And I bet you can guess what happened. And that's how Charlie and the tire swing began. And here's just a beautiful insert of just how big that oak tree came. And this oak tree is at my husband's house, and it's an intergenerational house. So that is Charlie and the Tire Swing, and I'm excited to give away a copy. Thank you, Ann.
Excellent. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for that beautiful reading. I love this. I just love this book. It feels so nice too, right? You can almost walk into the pictures.
Thank you. That was our dog. Sorry about that.
She's adding to the excitement. So how can somebody win a copy of Charlie?
Oh, yes, right. I'm so sorry. So where was Charlie sitting when he asked the question about the big oak tree?
Okay. Excellent. Yay. Okay. So don't forget, if anybody is watching, and I just want to give a shout out to Sue Slade, Dartmouth Book Exchange, who's watching today. Thanks for joining us, Sue. Huge supporter of authors here. We're very excited when Sue gets on the bandwagon. It's always there's lots of excitement. We have Lisa will be joining us momentarily. She looks like she's going to be joining in as soon as I see her come up here. We'll add her to our excitement here. So let's just keep on moving, and let's bring up one of our new folks. Francene, how about you next? Maybe don't forget to unmute your mic.
Hi.
There we go. Francene Cosman is new to OC Publishing this year, and we just released her memoir in September called Nurse. Yay! So I'm going to let her take it away.
Well, thank you, Ann. Yes, Nurse, a Memoir is a coming-of-age story. It is set in the General Hospital in St. John, New Brunswick. And before I do the reading, I'm just going to put a little Christmas story in. I also did the birthday cake for baby Jesus, so that brought back a beautiful memory. But my little story comes from the movie Miracle on 32nd Street. And the little star says, every time a bell rings, an angel gets its wings. And that little metal bell sold around the world from that movie. And there's the little, whoops, I have to figure out this camera. There's the little bell, minus its ringer. But I think every little kid I knew went to the 5 and dime store and bought the bell. And I was one of those children. I always have this little bell on my tree and hope that it lasts me out. So, okay, my book is a coming-of-age story, and I am going to read one part of it that took place around Christmas time into Christmas Eve. And don't forget, it is about nursing. So as part of my student rotation, I was assigned to the isolation unit, and it housed patients with contagious infections, very serious and undiagnosed illnesses, where germs spread quickly in the right environment, and isolation had to be the answer. So I was in the unit close to Christmas, and any patients who could be discharged home were sent home. I couldn't count on much to do for Christmas Eve because the unit was very quiet with only 2 patients. And the nurse in charge of the isolation unit used to scare me to death as a student. She was a formidable lady, and she usually spent her day at the front desk seated, doing the charts and also intensely reading a newspaper. So each patient stayed alone in a single room, and in the adjacent scrub area, we as staff or students got ourselves washed, masked, gowned, and into our protective uniform. And then, depending on the patient's diagnosis, we put on gloves. So I had to prepare equipment before I went in to see the patient. I had to follow a certain protocol. And then when you finished the caregiving, you reversed the protocol and you took all the used gear off and you dropped it in a bin. So December began to make its way to Christmas, and plans were made for the student body to take part in carol singing on Christmas morning. Most of us wouldn't need to look at lyrics because we all knew the tunes. The words were in our memories. We had our collective voice, and at a set time, we were going to walk through the lobby, make our way up through the stairwells, and sing. I was on duty on Christmas Eve, but I lived close by, so I wanted and hoped to be absent from the carols so I could go home after my shift. So I was scheduled to work the evening shift. I walked over to the hospital just as the first heavy snowflakes were drifting down. I have to admit, I felt a bit sorry for myself. I didn't really want to work that evening. I wanted to be home, like everyone else with my family. My self-pity ended quickly when I went on duty because the 2 patients remaining had very long stays ahead of them to become well again. I listened to the nursing report, and I wondered how on earth was I going to spend the 8 hours of the shift, given so few patients in my own care. One was a middle-aged man with a leg wound that resulted from cutting wood. The wound refused to heal, and after weeks of infection, the edges of the tissues gaped long and open, and the bone of his leg was dully gleaming. The skin had festered, and the edges were coated, and the pus coating built up rapidly. And this is a nursing book between each attempt to clean it and to treat it. If the infection didn't resolve, the outcome for him would be an amputation. He had hot compresses every 2 hours. He had antibiotic powders. He had gauze and Teflon dressings, and then his leg would be rewrapped. So I took his temperature, I gave him his medicines, I turned on his radio to a station playing Christmas music. And then I glanced out his window, and what had earlier been a few flakes of snow was now a nor'easter, buffeting the city. A shocking amount of wind gusts were billowing about. The intense blowing snow coated Waterloo Street with drifts, and traffic had slowed to a crawl. St. Mary's Church nearby looked deserted despite the scheduled service. People were staying snug at home. My father planned to pick me up later so I could open my gifts with him and my mother and have Christmas late that night and into the morning. And I did wonder, would he make it through the storm? Safe in the hospital, the magnitude of the storm was obvious, seen but not heard. The other patient was the same age as me, a 19-year-old girl who 2 days before had become engaged to her high school sweetheart. She had suddenly developed a very high fever and a severe headache and had headed to the emergency department earlier by ambulance. The initial battery of tests done for meningitis came back negative, and they hadn't discovered the cause of her illness. But in hopes of reversing the bacteria that she was fighting, she was vigorously treated with powerful antibiotics. She drifted in and out of consciousness, moaning with the pain in her head. I gave her a bed bath. I sponged her body. I tried to cool her down, but her fever began a slow climb up the thermometer, alarming me when it registered 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Her medicines were given to her intravenously, and I left her room ungowned, went to the phone, and called the resident doctor about this high fever. I didn't like what I heard as I stood by her door listening. Her breathing was labored and noisy. The resident arrived, we gowned, we went in, we assessed her again. The doctor hesitated to call the family, but his indecision turned to resolve, and he made the call. In that short period of time, her temperature went up more, near the top of the thermometer's ability to read it. Her pulse had weakened, and before she would give a slight response, but now, when asked a question, there was none. I left the room again. I came back with buckets of ice cubes and towels. I packed them around her legs and her arms, as well as across the front of her body. I stayed nearby, observing her breathing, and as the evening wore on, I kept on monitoring her fever. The clock was ticking toward midnight when the resident checked her again. Her fever was off the charts. Another intravenous line was put in. She was infused with a second antibiotic, broad spectrum, to run with the first. And I had the sinking feeling that this young woman with this unknown disease might not make it. Oh my God, she's so sick. Could she die? We don't even know what she has wrong. And that's where I'll leave this reading. So,
And your question for your giveaway?
my question is, what hospital was this story based in, or what location?
Wow.
Thank you, Anne.
Well, as you can see, Francene is quite a storyteller, and that just kind of, strikes you at the very core of your heart, especially this time of year. And to take a minute to recognize that there are certainly those who are, less fortunate than us, and to make sure that we all take some time over the season to maybe contribute to a charity, to do some volunteer work, and to know that a little bit of giving back some holiday cheers is also gives back to yourself. So thank you, Francene, for that reading. And I'm also very excited to see that. Hang on a second. Where am I here? Lisa is with us. Yay. Hi. And Elizabeth, I should say. Welcome to our celebration. Sorry it took a while to get you in the studio, but you're here now, and I'm very excited that you have joined us. So we're going to keep cranking away here just so we make sure everybody has an opportunity. So Lynda, how about you next?
All right. Well, I'm joining you today from Panama. I'm a storyteller. I'm a storyteller who writes from the heart, and I've written 3 books to date. My third one just came out in October, and I have a new one coming out with OC Publishing next year in April. So when you asked about a favorite tradition or memory, it was hard to come up with a tradition because living in Saudi Arabia the last 7 years, every year has been different. And so I've kind of lost my sense of what my traditions are. But I thought about it, and the time that comes up for me as a time that was just really a happy time and encapsulated so many of what I've come to think about around Christmas was the Christmas of 2013. And we started that. We lived on Vancouver Island at the time. I'd just been with Mr. for a year, just over a year. And we started off in Whistler, and then we were back on Vancouver Island, and we had all this family, and carols, and his nephew was singing in the church choir, and food and drinks. And On the 27th, he asked me to marry him. So that's my favorite Christmas memory. And today for this special event, I decided to read an excerpt from my second novel, The Holding, which launched in April, because it has a nice little Christmas scene. So that seemed appropriate. On Christmas Eve, Kate packs up overnight bags for her and Celeste. Celeste dances around the tiny kitchen of their apartment in her new black patent shoes, dazzled by the bows and ribbons on her new dress. "I'm so excited for the party," Celeste says. "Did you see all the presents under Drama and Drampa's tree?" "Yes, I did," Kate says. "But you know, Christmas is about a lot more than presents." "Uh-huh," Celeste says. "It's Jesus was born and tooties and singing. I'm so excited." "I am too, Angel. Go and grab your toothbrush from the bathroom and don't forget to pack your favorite stuffy and we'll be ready to go." After the church service, Kate and Celeste walk up the sidewalk to Kate's childhood home, leaving footprints in the newly fallen snow. Her dad has already turned on the outdoor lights and the decorated artificial tree in the bay window twinkles. Kate has just stowed away their overnight bags when the doorbell rings. She overhears John announcing his entrance with a Merry Christmas. She walks into the front entrance to see John with a stack of gifts a mile high. She takes them and sets them under the tree. John's parents arrive right after. Michael leads the assembly in singing Christmas carols, accompanied by their mother on the piano. The drinks are flowing and Kate is feeling happy. John is being nothing short of a gentleman, helping William to pour drinks and playing with Celeste. Before Kate takes Celeste off to bed, John helps her set out cookies and milk for Santa, along with the customary carrots for the reindeer. "I hope Santa brings you everything you asked for," John says to Celeste. "Well, it's time for a certain little girl to head up to bed," Kate says. "Come on then." "But Mommy, I'm too excited to sleep," Celeste says with a yawn, her eyelids drooping. "It will be morning before you know it," Kate says. The party carries on for a few more hours with games of charades that has everyone in stitches. "Well, I hate to be the first one to throw in the towel," Kate says as she gathers up her empty eggnog glass and plate of half-eaten goodies. "But that little one of mine is an early bird." She's in the kitchen, scraping her plate into the trash can, when John sidles up behind her and presses close. "I hope we can start fresh," John says. "And I don't want to wait for the new year. I know I've been a complete dolt, but I love you, Kate. I want to learn how to be the man you need me to be, and I think I can, if you're willing to teach me." Kate turns around to face him, tears welling. "Okay, I'm willing to give us another try." She blinks back the tears. "That's the best Christmas gift I could have asked for." John leans in and kisses her softly. "I know you guys have your family traditions tomorrow, but can I take you to a movie on Boxing Day?" "Yeah, that sounds like fun. I'll see if Mom and Dad can look after Celeste." "I was thinking of a family movie that all three of us could go to," John says, a hurt look on his face. "John, please, don't start up already," Kate says. "And besides, Celeste is far too young to go to the movies. You've seen for yourself, she can't sit still for more than 10 minutes. Let's go see something romantic, just the two of us." "Okay," John says. "Good night and Merry Christmas." So that's just a short scene and my skill testing question. It was said quite a few times, so this one should be easy, is what is the name of Kate's daughter?
Yes, hopefully. That's actually, I love that excerpt. Very, very nicely chosen as well. And for those of you who have just joined us, don't forget to have a listen to from the beginning and listen to some of the questions that the authors have asked in order to possibly win a copy of the books that we're representing today. And I also want to give a shout out to my friend Padmini Sankar. I'm not sure if she's joining us from Dubai or from New York tonight. But Merry Christmas to you too, Patty. Nice to see you. I mentioned earlier the writing group that I started in Dubai, and Patty was one of the members of that group, and has since published a couple of books. And one was fairly recent, The Mother of All Parties. Great book, I have to say. So just marching along, I'm going to mix things up a little bit. And how about Apple? Why don't you take the stage?
Okay, unmute. Happy Christmas, everyone. Holidays. It made me smile, Diann, when you talked about filling the shoes with sweets on the 6th of January. Many years ago, when I lived in Holland, the tradition there was to fill the clogs with tangerines and sweets on the 5th of December, which was always a lovely little tradition. And Christmas is all about children, so I suppose I was thinking a couple of years ago, my family live all over the world. My daughter and her children and husband live in Trinidad, and they were up here on St. Croix in the US Virgin Islands, where I am, for Christmas. And my eldest granddaughter, Ava, said, "But Gigi, how will Santa know where I am? Because I'm not at home." So, you, as a grandparent and a parent, of course, you have to think on your feet. And it was, oh, well, we don't need chimneys or anything like that, because he'll just fly in through the open window at night. So that was fine. And Santa did come. So that was all good. I have 2 books that have been published by OC Publishing. Thank you so much, Anne, for taking a gamble on me. I'm going to read from one of them called Fireburn, which is historical fiction. And there's nothing really about Christmas in it, so I'll just start fairly close to the beginning. Listen carefully, because the question I'm going to ask at the end will be mentioned, or the answer will be mentioned. Grunts and swearing filled the air as men, rivulets of sweat streaking their faces and naked backs, heaved goods up from drays, hogshead, giant vats of rum and sacks of sugar crowded for position, some bursting, sending golden granulated arcs across the wharf. In the cool of the foot-thick walls of a scale house, each was unloaded, weighed, and recorded by a behatted white man, dressed in white. Only after merchants and planters or their agents climbed the steps of the nearby customs house, where another official collected the relevant taxes, was the cargo loaded onto ships leaving for Europe and America. Anna explained the process as she and Ivy stood in the dappled shade of an old mahogany tree, removed from the shin-banging dangers of carts rushing to the wharf, and upwind of the intoxicating fumes seeping from barrels. "Rum, m'lady? I never knowed rum came from here," Ivy said, longing to sink onto one of the trunks, her feet sticky in stockings and boots that felt a size too small. "It's been the lifeblood of the Caribbean. Better to drink the juice of the cane than of the cassava. That ivy is poison," Anna said, her eyes darting up King Street each time a carriage clattered toward the melee. "It seems we are not being met just yet. Sit now." "No, m'lady, it's not right," Ivy replied, wondering what cassava was, and fearing there would be many such moments of confusion. "What's that building?" she asked, pointing to an enclosed compound across the teeming square. "The Danish West Indies and Guinea warehouse," Anna explained, where, before slavery was abolished, Africans were oiled, prodded, and sold. "There was a dishonourable time in our history, not just here, but all through the islands and America. We Danes and British, along with others, were guilty of dreadful deeds." "But who got the slaves?" "Plantations, Ivy, to grow, harvest, and produce the sugar, or cotton, or tobacco. Europeans were quickly found to wilt in this climate, but those from Africa had little need to adapt." "No, ma'am, begging your pardon, I mean, who sold them people in the first place?" Looking quizzically at Ivy, Anna was again reminded not to dismiss her maid as a simple girl from the East End of London. She had an inquiring mind, not always the words to express her thoughts. "Slavery had been around a long time, and I'm sure it still is in some parts of the world," Anna replied. "Arabs, other Africans," she continued. "When it became known there was a market for humans in the New World, people were taken from their villages, royalty as well as commoners, and sold to the traders on the coast of Africa. It was a most lucrative business." Lapsing into silence, they watched the constantly moving parade of people, like a carefully choreographed ballet, until Ivy's voice broke their quiet. "Everyone's very black, m'lady," she said. "There seems blacker than the black men are seen in London. I never seen a black lady before." Anna smiled at the drooping girl, heat and anxiety rising off her in waves. Ivy black is only a colour, like white. There are good and bad of both. Someone will be along presently, and once we are home there will be much to do. Please, sit. I stand only because I find it cooler. "Milady?" Ivy asked after a moment, nodding to black men labouring nearby. "Do them have red blood, same as us?" So, historical fiction, Fireburn, and the sequel is Transfer. And my question for you is, in which country are the books set? Thank you so much, Anne.
Oh, thank you very much, Apple. Love, 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 love these readings. And of course, Fireburn and Transfer are available, as all OC Publishing titles are, from your favorite local or online retailers, and can be ordered into local bookstores. So when I say your favorite online retailer, I'm not referring to anyone in particular. So there are online booksellers all over the world that will have our titles available. So let's just keep cranking along. Cindy, you're on. Yay, Cindy.
Hello,
There
I'm
you go.
Cindy. Here I am. And I have published 3 books, and they are all about Lily, who is the donkey who carries Mary to Bethlehem. And I will read a short excerpt. And so here it goes. Lily gasped. God only knows where we will stay. Mary, are you all right? Asked Joseph out of concern as he helped her off Lily's back. Mary's time was getting very close. There's no room anywhere. Max's voice came back to haunt Lily. I'm sorry, but there's no room in my inn, said the innkeeper at the 3rd place they stopped. Lily exploded. This room is for the baby Jesus. She began whipping her head from side to side. How much was a little gray furry donkey supposed to take anyway? Hee-haw, hee-haw, she squealed. No room for my sweet family. It's almost dark and Mary needs a room, and she needs one now. Lily's ears were snapping so hard and she was making such a racket that Lily stopped to watch her. Lily looked over at Mary, who was standing nearby. Mary smiled and put her hand on her tummy. Lily, can you hear him in your heart? Oh, yes, I can. She remembered her grandfather's advice to always listen to her heart. You are in the middle of miracles, he had said. And the story I'll stop there, and it keeps on going. And there is quite a few different angles to the end of the story of that particular one. And as far as Christmas memories, I can remember being maybe 7 or 8 years old, and I grew up in a large family, and everybody came to our house for Christmas Eve. It was known as the house that everybody went to. And our tradition was to sit and watch White Christmas, and I got to stay up with the big kids, and it made my Christmas very happy.
I love that. That's awesome. That's one of my favorite holiday movies. Yay. Gee, that could have been another question. We always watch A Christmas Carol as well, which is one of my favorite holiday. So let's keep on going because I don't want to run out of time. Did you have a question for a giveaway, Cindy?
Yes. What made Lily so mad?
Ooh, good one. Ooh, I like that one. Okay, well, let's continue on. Let's, Montaha, would you like to be our next star of the show?
Thank you, Anne. Hello, everyone. I'm Montaha Hidefi, and I'm joining today from Guelph, Ontario in Canada. So together through OC Publishing, we have published 3 memoirs. And today I'm going to read from the last one, which is Giving Voice to My Silence. And I'm not going to read from my book directly. I'm going to read from my ebook on the screen, which makes it easier to read. And so My memoirs are about unfortunate events that made of me the fortunate person that I am today. And so the structure of the memoirs are based on chapters. And I decided to not read a complete chapter, but I decided to read some excerpts from the epilogue, from the prologue, and a couple of paragraphs from chapter 24, because that chapter really affected me a lot. The events that happened in that chapter affected me, and while I was writing it, it also affected me a lot. So I'm going to start with the epilogue. I lived in distress for years under the bulk of indignity and cruelty that resonated in my head, the conundrums I bottled up inside impenetrable urns in the deepest, darkest places of my inner self, and the deceptions of countless social injuries, false promises, and relationships with two-faced people that sought to satisfy their pride from the spring of my naivete and trust. The next part is from the prologue. For most of my life, while performing as the main character in my play, I was incapable of taking a seat in the auditorium. But I managed to become a spectator of my own drama when I decided to put an end to my silence out of fear of being disbelieved or ridiculed and give it a voice. Now, 3 years after the publication of Groping for Truth, my uphill struggle for respect, I feel liberated from the burden that weighed on me. I can now rest in the middle of the auditorium and watch the gloomy past events of my life parading dramatically on the stage after the curtains are opened to announce the beginning of the show. The next part is from chapter 24. The distressful account of Mother's last moment stood etched in my mind and left me even more confused and heartbroken. In the days that followed, distinct images of Mother's corpse decomposing in her final resting place emerged in my head. I was making scenarios of these stages of deterioration. The first week of her passing, I imagined her belly bloat progressively like a balloon and then burst against the lid of the coffin. The following weeks, I imagined her face gently festered and consumed by maggots. I could not control this gross mind imagery. The bewilderment persisted for weeks. I spent hours thinking of a past that included Mother and cried. My sisters and I comforted each other over video chatting. Mother started appearing in my dreams. In each dream, she somehow extended a silent invitation to join her, but I did not accept. Perhaps it was my fear of death that triggered the dreams. We had officially become orphans. Father, the man I loved and whom I consider my protector, passed away in August of 2018, following a 2-day coma due to a fall on the entrance steps of the family house in Alcázar. He died doing what he loved most, walking around the house. The process of mourning Father was beyond difficult. For months, a stabbing thunderbolt punctured my heart, and I tasted the bitterness of life. Mourning Mother, however hard for several months, did not equate to the loss of Father, but it somehow debilitated my tenacity to keep moving forward. I was confronted again with the harsh reality and the significance of life. And I'm going to end this with a part from the prologue. It is my intention to share my stories, no matter how painful this process has been, with the hope that it will encourage the silenced, wherever they are around the world, to come forth, give voice to their silence, and know that they are not alone. Now, in any present time, is the right time to put an end to our until now muted grief and expose its true colors. If silence had a color, what color would it be? If silence had a voice, what color would that voice be? And I'm going to stop here. And my question to our listeners is, what is the name of the first memoir that I wrote, which was mentioned in my reading? Thank you, Anne, for the opportunity.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that excerpt. I know it doesn't get any easier when you're sharing things that are that traumatic from your past. So I really, really appreciate your being so brave. Thank you for sharing and for encouraging others to speak out. So again, thank you so much. I'm going to move along and just kind of change things up a little bit. We still have Elizabeth, who has joined us, and I believe that you're going to bring us in, and then Barb will talk about a little bit about Zigzag Zeffie. So, Elizabeth, would you like to share a little bit about your new book?
Sure. I was thinking of Christmas memories as well. There's so many good ones and sad ones. But last Christmas, I think, was one of my favorites because that's when my newest granddaughter was born, and December 16th. And even though they've had to move out of the province temporarily, we video chat constantly, and it's wonderful. So that's a really good Christmas memory. I'll read from Orange Kitty, as you all know, and I didn't want to start from the beginning. I thought I'd start a little further in. And just one moment. I didn't quite have it ready. Okay. So this starts with the 8 little mice. 8 stupendous jugglers come running, twirling and spinning plates, quite stunning, tossing and catching with meticulous care. 8 china teacups tossed in the air. Then 9 zany mice on bikes of all shapes zip round the yellow hall without using their brakes. Poor Orange Kitty, so unaware of these cheeky mice parading with nary a care. She's totally missing this boisterous affair. All the mice start calling, bring out the treats. We're hungry from performing these amazing feats. 10 mouse bakers bring cupcakes and cheeses to choruses of hip hip hooray and pleases. All 55 mice are zooming and playing, happily eating treats and parading. 55 mice all around Kitty, fast asleep in the hall. The long narrow hall with the bright yellow wall. Until each little mouse gets tuckered out, they've had quite enough of running about. It's time to go home one by one through the door, the little blue door just an inch from the floor. Orange Kitty wakes to a peaceful hall. It's all quiet here, there are no mice at all. She looks down the hall, she looks at the door. Was there a parade? Were there mice galore? Orange Kitty ponders and blinks an eye and smiles at a nice surprise left nearby. A little cupcake just for her after all, in the long narrow hall with the bright yellow wall. And that took us to the end of the story. And I guess my question would be, what's the total number of mice?
And ooh, that's a good one. Thank you so much. And I'm going to, you actually picked one of my favorite ones, and I'm just going to share. This is the plate spinning mice. And I think the only other one that I might like even more, can you guess, Lisa, Elizabeth?
The jugglers?
The juggling.
Oh, the Beatles.
Oh my goodness. And the buttons and Beatles. Look how, I mean, that is so cute. Yeah, a little lighter. So we have, the question was how many mice? So anybody who's watching, make sure that you, listen, rewind and listen again if you need to, and make sure you pop in your answers. And I'm going to leave that sort of the contest open until midnight tonight. So anybody who catches it even after. So I'm really very excited. And as I said, I'm not sure if I said it while we were on because we had such a nice chat before we went live. But Lisa Elizabeth Gales, E.M. Gales is your author name,
Yes.
was the latest book that came out. And when Elizabeth joined the OC Publishing family, we were so excited about those illustrations. And at the same time, Barb, I'm going to highlight her in a second. Barb, who's our very newest author, we've been working on a couple of books together for a while. But we loved the illustrations that we decided to invite Elizabeth to be the illustrator on Barb's book. So Barb, why don't you tell us a little bit about your book that'll be coming out this summer?
Well, I will read a short clip from the book just so people can get a feeling. And after seeing Elizabeth's illustrations, you can expect that there will be some great illustrations in this book. It's called Zigzag Zeffie. And Zeffie is a puggle. His mom was Pug Beagle and dad was Pug Boston. And he is a little ball of energy. He's now 11. But the book is called Zigzag Zeffie, and it starts off about how he gets into the home where he lives with me now. And I'll just read a short bit of it for you. There were many toys and a nice soft bed and lots of love and pats on the head. And wow, the walks, they were such fun. He smelled the air and he got to run back and forth, this way and that, zigging and zagging, then laying down flat. Zig, sniff the ground. Zag, smell a tree. Zigzag Zeffie had so much to see. He lived with that lady, his own Hugh mom. He tried to be good, but he chomped on her thumb. And he peed on the floor, and he chewed on the chair, and he hid her clothes, who knows where. And I'll stop reading there. So that gives you an idea of what's to come with Zigzag Zeffie. And I'm so happy to join this family of authors. And I'll just end with, I don't have a question because the book's not out, but next round we'll make sure that we do that. I'll end with a little bit of a family tradition. My parents grew up quite poor, and they did not have a Christmas tree when they went to bed on Christmas Eve. They knew they'd have stockings in the morning with treats, including an orange, which was a big deal in the time of post-war. But they didn't have a Christmas tree when they went to bed. It was there in the morning. It was part of the joy of Christmas morning. The tree was decorated and there for them. And my mom kept the tradition, sort of. We didn't put our tree up until Christmas Eve, and it was a family tradition to decorate it and for everybody to be together on Christmas Eve. And so that's been very special to me. And I'll end there. Thank you, everyone, for letting me join in, and happy holidays to all.
Thanks so much, Barb. That's one of my favorite Zigzag Zeffie excerpts as well.
He's a rascal. He's been barking a lot in the background. That's why I kept myself muted all the way through this, because he was very excited with everyone else's readings.
I could hear him. And well, my goodness, I think that we've had such a wonderful hour together, and so appreciate you sharing your stories and the holidays. And I'm going to sign off now and just remind everybody, what I will remind everybody what the questions were once we sign off, and want to wish you guys the very, very happiest of holidays, however you celebrate and wherever, and a very happy new year. Hopefully it brings lots of wonderful things into your lives. So thank you guys so much for joining me. It's been such
Thank you, Anne.
Thank you, Anne.
Thank you, Anne. Merry Christmas, everyone. Happy
Merry
holidays.
Christmas.
so much. And thank you everybody for joining in this wonderful holiday. So happy holidays, and we will see you next year on the author journey. Bye for now.
Take care.
Happy holidays.